$0.004 per stream, which is less than half of 1 cent.
You heard right. Spotify's streaming rate is around $0.00348 per song. Not a big problem for huge international artists, but for the millions of smaller acts trying to make a living, especially during a pandemic, it's tough.
We played a gig in January and we played a gig at the end of October, and that's it for this year.
Australia's live music industry was one of the first to shut down, and it will be one of the last to fully come back.
So this year, instead of simply sharing your favourite artists on Insta, why not shop your top and back those artists who've had your back? Purchase a record, or if old school vinyl isn't your jam, purchase some merch. And don't forget, live music's a thing again. So get out there and go to a COVID-safe gig.
That's the most important thing you can do, is go out to shows, purchase tickets beforehand.
Grab a t-shirt from your favourite act and wear it proudly. Or think about donating money to an organisation like Support Act, where I got this t-shirt from. They help the people behind the scenes who are not on stage. So we're open. Go out there. Support Aussie music.
I love that bit of fiction. It's so good. So many good suggestions there, and we do need to support our local artists. But I don't know how you guys went, but I got that email today from Spotify, and I opened it up, and I was really fearful, and I had very good reason to be fearful. My number one song, it was like Spotify was saying to me, "Hello, Lisa, it's 2020, wakey, wakey," because my number one song was Fleetwood Mac's Songbird.
You know, someone's going to find your Spotify account in 1,000 years' time, some archaeologist digging through all this digital data and go, oh, I had no idea that iPhones were around in the 80s.
It's very true. My number two was Amy Shark, Everybody Rise, though. I love Amy Shark.
Don't get a number two to redeem yourself, Lisa. You've done it.
I'm trying.
What have you got?
My number one was, because I've got kids, so my kids dominated mine. My number one was Real Gone. By Sheryl Crow, which you might not be familiar with unless you've watched Cars 38,000 times.
That'll do it.
Yeah, and then I've got a number two to redeem myself, and it was Tones and I, because my daughter plays it. So there you go.
You
I'm
just
slow
watched the
redeem
package
myself.
and wrote down that name as you were going. That's quite suspicious.
Mine was Baby Shark. Anyway, if you are a fan of the Godfather trilogy, you will be stoked to learn that The Godfather Part 3 has been recut and reimagined by the great Francis Ford Coppola. I had the pleasure of catching up with him.
Have to go back to work. It's part of the wedding. No Sicilian can refuse any request on his daughter's wedding day.
In 1972, Francis Ford Coppola revolutionized the gangster movie genre when he co-wrote and directed The Godfather, hailed as one of the greatest films of all time and the first in a trilogy of epic proportions.
I'm gonna make him an offer again with you.
The production was famously troubled as Coppola butted heads with studio execs over his choice to cast Marlon Brando and the then unknown Al Pacino.
Michael, is it true?
Don't ask me about my business.
No.
Against the odds, Coppola succeeded and the film picked up 3 Oscars, which he then backed up with The Godfather Part 2, which won 6 Golden Statues from 11 nominations.
I know it was you, Freedom. You probably aren't.
Francis Ford Coppola, it's an honour to chat with you. My favourite film is Godfather Part 2. My second favourite film is The Godfather. Is it true, though, that you weren't planning on making Godfather Part 2?
To me, I had thought that the first film sort of told it all. So when they approached me on making a second one, I basically turned it down. I said, I don't want to just keep making the same film. I want to make different kinds of film. I want to always be doing a new experience. So I said, but what I would do is that I would work on the script for a second one with Mario Puzo, and I'll do that, and I'll choose a young director, and I'll come to you, and I'll produce the film, but this young director will direct it. So after a time, I contacted them and I said, well, we've done it. We have a script that we think is an interesting script. And I said, it's a sort of like a prequel and a sequel at the same time. And I had chosen a director to do it. And I said, his name is Martin Scorsese. He's brilliant talent. And they said, no, we don't want to now start with someone that we don't know. And so then the head of Paramount or Gulf and Western, which owned Paramount, called me up and he said, listen, Francis, you have to do it. This is Coca-Cola, and you have the formula for Coca-Cola. and you have to make more Coca-Cola. Well, we will do anything you want to have you do this. And I said, okay, I'll do it on 3 conditions. One is that I can do it with total freedom, and I don't have to be under Bob Evans's thumb and have them driving me crazy with their interference and stuff. 2, I said I want $1 million. For me to ask for $1 million, I never had in one piece $10,000, much less $1 million. You know, I need $1 million. And thirdly, I want to call the film The Godfather Part 2.
And Francis, with Part 2, didn't you pretty much invent the idea of sequels?